everybody. Don Wilson here. I hope you and your family, all the people you care about, I hope you're all safe and doing well. I am a sales educator. I'm also a motivational speaker. I'm an author and coach. My company is called Prospecting Intelligence. That's prospectingintel.com. And this is the Whoopee Nation podcast. We are officially into season 2, 2021. And this podcast is all about bringing in guests that help you discover new ways to embrace change to succeed. And this is number 2 of the second season. And this guy is phenomenal. He is a brand new friend of mine. He hails from South Florida. He is a managing partner for Levinson Associates. It's an insurance agency. His name is Bill Levinson. Now, he's one of those guys that didn't have a lot of excitement for school growing up. But his mom did point out that he had a lot of passion for motorcycles. So she's like, well, get into that. Go sell some motorcycles. And he succeeded. But the game changer in his life was a random customer came into the shop one day who turned into a mentor who challenged him. Said, I think there's bigger and better things out there for you. So he joined his dad's insurance agency and he got into technology and innovation. And now we're talking some 20,000 insurance agents later and a few exotic cars later and a few cover stories on major industry magazines later. And here's Bill Levinson. He has his own podcast, the Bill Levinson Experience. He is genuine. He's passionate. He cares about the success of others. I mean, you should see how many people show up at the annual Levinson Live Expo in South Florida every year. They'll be doing that hopefully at the end of this year or beginning of 2022. But this is a guy that you are going to learn from and you're going to enjoy. So sit back and have fun with my conversation with a brand new mentor of mine. They call him the industry disruptor, Bill Levinson. Welcome, Bill Levinson. What is that weather like down in Florida?
Right now, I'm sorry to say there's not a cloud in the sky. It's about 71 degrees right now. So we've been very, very fortunate. So I know a lot of people in the northern part of the country don't have 71 degree weather and no clouds in the sky. But hey, there's always good and bad, right, with every situation. So there you have it.
Well, I got out on the golf course. It just involved long johns, long underwear, unfortunately, and a hat and gloves on in between shots. I only caught a stinger or two. It wasn't that bad, not too bad. Well, I am thrilled to have you on. I was originally introduced to you by a good friend in my network, who's also an associate of yours, Scott Jasparo. And he's a big fan of yours up here. He's an insurance professional up here. And, you invited me on your podcast, which was truly exciting because you're so far ahead of me, regarding your success with the podcast medium and the audience. I am just thrilled to have you on as a guest today. Thank you so much, Bill. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, no, I feel the same exact way. And I also appreciate, if it wasn't for Scott, this whole thing wouldn't have happened. So, he was nice enough. And I remember him saying to me, you got to meet my buddy, Donnie Wilson. And I was delighted to meet you. And he was exactly right, everything he said about you. So if it wasn't for Scotty, we wouldn't be on this call today. So my kudos goes out to Scott as well. And thank you, Don, for setting this up.
Certainly, my friend. I commented on one of his posts, actually. I don't know if it was this morning or last night, about his services. And I said, I see plenty of commercials, with these funny characters and all the promises that that are made regarding quote unquote service. I said, you know what I get with you? I got a guy that I can call that always picks up the phone and you just keep saving me money. I'll pick that. I'll choose that over the commercials.
Yeah. Any day of the week. I love it.
Why don't you just begin with the basics, a little bit about you and what you do for a living and why you're such an outstanding guest.
Yeah, no. Thank you. Thank you for setting up this whole thing. Like Donnie said, he was a guest on my podcast, and it went amazing. One of my favorites to this day. So I'm delighted to be a guest speaker on your podcast, which, by the way, we're also going to launch this to our audience as well.
Cool.
So, I'll start from the beginning. I just turned 45 years old and grew up in South Florida, born in Miami. And as I got older, my family kept moving north and north and north. And now we wound up in Broward County, which is like the Fort Lauderdale area. So we basically went from Miami to Sunrise to Fort Lauderdale, and then the last stop was Coral Springs, which just turns out our headquarters, home office, is in Coral Springs, South Florida, also Broward County. So, growing up, and I'll get off track here for a minute, but growing up for me, let's see, a young kid in South Florida, Miami, Fort Lauderdale area, very different from the Midwest, let's say. I was more focused on, the music and going out, to the nightclubs and dating and working out and, motorcycles and dirt bikes and wasn't into school like I should have been. Okay. Got I guess caught up in the wrong crowds and, kind of the cool kids, which looking back, I wish I would have done things a little different. But, it was good because I feel like, to be successful in life, yes, you really should. If you have the opportunity to go to college and get a degree, it's very, very important. But you also have to have the street smarts. I feel like you need a combination of both. Right. So I don't regret anything that I did. I feel like I learned so much on both sides. But, you fast forward to, let's see, right out of high school, I started going to Broward Community College part-time. And the long story short is my mom literally forced me to get a part-time job, while I was going to school. And the only thing that I really knew how to do, number one, was ride dirt bikes and motorcycles, because we had the neighborhood kids would always get together and we'd go ride these dirt bikes and we would film each other, and it was something that we loved to do. So I knew that inside and out. And she said, go get a job selling motorcycles because you love it. It's your passion, right? And you know it inside and out. Then I said, yeah, but Mom, back then they had the classified section in the newspaper. And it said, experience necessary. And I said, Mom, I don't have I never did this before. I don't have the experience. I never worked in a dealership. And she said, oh, it doesn't matter. You know it better than anyone. You got to push yourself. So I did not listen to her. And I wound up bussing tables at Chili's Bar and Grill in Sunrise, Florida. So I worked at Chili's for a very short time. There was some big music festival going on. I think it was called Lollapalooza or something. And that was more. Yeah, I'm sure. So that was more important than my Chili's busboy position. So I wound up going away that weekend. I came back and they fired me from Chili's. So that was the end of my my Chili's Bar and Grill experience. So jobless. A couple months later, my mom literally forced me to get in the car. There was a job opening at a motorcycle dealership called Boca Honda. So I went to the interview, and the first thing the general manager said to me was, Bill, he said, you have to have experience. Where did you come from before? And I did not have any experience, but I used to go to a dealership in Broward for service called Broward Kawasaki. So I said a little white lie, I guess. I said, well, I used to work at Broward Kawasaki. He said, great, you're hired. So obviously, I don't encourage lying to anyone. But in order to get the position back then, I had to do whatever it takes. So I told him I worked there. He said, "You're hired." I started the next day. Let's see, I was about 17 years old. And as I said, I never worked in a dealership before, but it didn't matter. I think this is a big point for everyone. I loved motorcycles. That was my passion. I knew everything inside and out. And I think that, they always say, if you find what you love, you're going to do amazing at it, right? It doesn't matter if it's building computers, riding dirt bikes, working on cars, racing cars, building cell phones or apps, whatever it is. I feel like you're going to do amazing at it because there's going to be a lot of pushback, a lot of obstacles, and you have to love what you do, right? I mean,
Well,
at the end of the day,
I got to tell you, I love your mom out of the gates. I mean,
oh yeah,
because I think it's pretty cool how she connected the passion to income,
yes.
And shared that with you at a pretty young age. Mom sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, no, she's my rock. She's absolute. I would not be in the spot that I'm in today if it wasn't for her. Actually, she works in the office. She's about 20 feet from me. She's our office manager, and still today, puts her foot down and enforces rules, and just like if it was 25 years ago. So yeah, thank you for saying that, by the way, Donnie. So yeah, she literally forced me in the car, and I go to the dealership and I start, my first day, I'm selling motorcycles, and I'm working with a bunch of guys that are at least double my age or triple even. And they've been doing this for years and years. And my first day sold a little dirt bike, a little motorcycle. And the first month, so the manager would keep like one of those boards you see in a car dealership with everybody's names. And every time you sell a car, you get a little X. He wanted everyone to be very competitive. So my first month there, I was the number one salesperson in the dealership. And that was exactly the motivation and the confidence that I needed, right? I think that when you hear from your parents, growing up, you're the best, Billy, you're going to do great, I promise you, it doesn't mean that much because it's your parents. And then all of a sudden, when you hear it from an outsider, right, or you prove yourself, someone that doesn't have, anything invested, or an ulterior motive, let's say, right? Sure. And to be the number one guy there in 30 days, and it was just the confidence booster that I needed to get to the next part of my life. So I figured this out, and I was like, wow, I found my niche. This is great. Sales, motorcycles, everything's great. So a year goes by, and every month I am crushing it, and I'm making good money, for a kid right out of college, or right. I'm sorry, right out of high school, going to part-time college. I'm making good money. And, I started to enjoy some of the nicer things in life because we didn't really grow up with much money. My parents used to share a car. I remember times as a young kid, they would share, Campbell's soup for dinner. So, we didn't have much money. So all of a sudden I'm making, $50,000, $60,000 a year. Back then, I was on top of the world. Sure. So I'm the number one guy there. Everything's wonderful. And I think this is a real turning point in my life. And I don't know if you wanted me to go this far back, Donnie, but I think it's important. Okay. So anyway, everything's great. I'm on top of the world, and I'm the number one guy there. It's about a year in. And, college, I was still taking part-time courses, but it just wasn't for me. I wasn't into it. And I have the kind of personality that if I love what I do, I'm going to kill it. I'm going to crush it. I'll be the one of the top guys or girls, whatever it is. I'm going to make sure I'm at the top, the best, but I have to love it. And if I don't, then I ignore it. I don't pay attention. It's hard for me to focus. So I figured out this little niche that I'm great at. Okay. Everything's fine. Now, you can't sell motorcycles for the rest of your life and live on the ocean and have a boat and travel around the world. That my goals, right, were not going to be met by selling motorcycles. So a year in, everything's still fine. And this customer comes in and he says to me, "Hey, I want to buy these 3 motorcycles, one for me and one for each of my children, and you are going to load up the motorcycles on a trailer, deliver them to my house, and then you're going to show me how to ride a motorcycle." And I don't know if you've ever ridden a motorcycle with a manual clutch and shifting, but unless you know what you're doing, it's very difficult. Okay.
I did it for about 20 seconds. My buddy Joey Oliveira grew up riding dirt bikes, and I crashed it into a stone wall. That was the last time I rode one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's a typical story. That's usually what happens. And that's actually what I'm going to tell you next is very similar to what you just said. So that was spot on, Donnie. So I look at this guy, and he's a younger, good looking guy, pulls up in a brand new Porsche. And usually I don't do this kind of thing, right? You don't go deliver motorcycles to someone's house and show them how to ride, because that can take days and weeks and if not months. And some people never get it because you have to be very coordinated with the clutch and shifting. And if there's a mistake, the guy can kill himself. So it's very serious. So anyway, I said, you know what? I have nothing to lose, right? Obviously, this is a successful guy, seems very sharp. Why not? I wanted the commission as well, so I figured, why not? So here I am. I'm in my polos and my khaki pants, which was our uniform for work. And I load up the work truck and the trailer. And at the end of the day, 5 o'clock, I deliver these 3 motorcycles to this man's house. And I pull up to the house, and he lives in a neighborhood called St. Andrew's Country Club in Boca Raton, which is very, very high end, very exclusive.
Yeah.
And sure enough, he's got the biggest house in the neighborhood, like a castle. Okay. In fact, the street was called Melrose Castle Lane, just to give you an idea. So you can imagine. So here's this mega mansion, and I pull up, my mouth is on the floor, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm not used to being around people like this, or seeing things like this. So I unload the motorcycles, and here we are running up and down Melrose Castle Lane. He's on the bike. I'm telling him, shift, pull in the clutch. And I'm dripping. I'm in my khakis and my polo, dripping sweat. It's probably 95 degrees in South Florida. Okay. So you can imagine. And so we're running up and down, and next thing you know, he doesn't let his hand off the gas and winds up going into his neighbor's yard and almost slams into the front of the house. And until I grabbed the bike, literally, physically. So we were, laughing about it after, but it was a close call. So after we're done, it's like sun's coming down, 7, 8 o'clock at night. He says, "Do you want to come in and see the house?" And I was like, "Absolutely. This is amazing." So I get the tour, and his name is Jeff Levitets, by the way. He's a Forbes 500 guy. Every Cleveland clinic in the country has an orthopedic center, and it's named after him. It's called the Levitets Family Foundation. He's a huge philanthropist, very, very successful gentleman. So, and I didn't know this at the time. I just figured, hey, why not? Right? I want the commission on 3 bikes, and what do I have to lose? So anyway, I get the tour of the house, and he said, "Come." He says, "You want to see my watch safe?" And I said, "Of course." He goes, "You love watches?" I said, "Oh yeah, I love watches." And we're looking in he's got a big, like 8-foot safe full of Rolex watches, and he says to me, "Pick one out." And I said, "What? Are you kidding me? Pick one out?" He says, "Yeah, no." He goes, "I appreciate you taking the time. I know this isn't part of your job description, but you did it anyway, and I appreciate it. And this is my gift to you." So I was blown away. I was like, "Are you serious?" So I picked out a watch. I get back in the work truck. I'm driving to the dealership to drop off the truck and get my car. I call my mom. I'm like, "Mom, you won't believe this. This guy I met, I'm showing him how to ride. He gave me a Rolex watch." And she's like, "Oh my gosh, Billy, I'm so proud of you," and blah, blah, blah. So the reason why I'm telling you the story, number one, I still have the watch today. Okay. And it's 25 years later.
Sure.
And he became like a mentor, of like a father figure to me after that day. So he would come into the dealership. We would go to lunch every now and then. And then here comes another turning point in my life. So about a year later, I became the sales manager at the dealership, which is great, but still, I knew I could do a little more, and I wanted to do a little more with my life.
Right.
So we're going to lunch one day. We're walking down the steps to go to the parking lot, and Jeff puts his arm around me and he says, Billy, he says, you're much more than this. You have a lot more to offer in life. He goes, I see it in you. And I turned around and I looked at him and I said, are you serious? Like you really feel that? And he said, Bill, yes, you're in the wrong business. And that night I called my general manager and I quit the motorcycle dealership. And my father was a salesman, a life insurance salesman, had a small agency in South Florida. And I told my father, so that night I quit my job, called my dad. I said, Dad, you got to show me the business. I want to learn the life insurance business. And, he made this offer many times in the past, but I think hearing the message from a complete stranger, right, from Jeff, who was a friend at that time, but not a blood relative, not a father, not a mother. Okay. I needed that confidence to say, you know what, I'm ready to make a change. I can do more than this. So I did. So the next day, I started learning the life insurance business on the retail side, which is kind of like what Scott does.
Right.
Learn the ropes. And, I remember the first year I got my insurance license and I remember sitting through, these insurance classes, and I would literally fall asleep by 2-3 o'clock because I didn't love it, right? It wasn't my passion. Like I said before, you have to be so into this for me to succeed at least. And so I knew that. So anyway, sat through the classes, got the license, and started to sell a little bit with my father. And he was amazing, by the way, and was very patient with me. And I said to myself, I see what you're doing, and I like what you're doing. I want to learn it, but we need something more, something bigger. So I said, if we're doing this now and you're selling, we have a few agents that work with us, why not open this up to the entire state of Florida? Let's become a wholesaler, a distribution arm, if you will. Mm-hmm. And he loved the idea. So that was, I was 21, 22 years old at that time. And we started with just a few agents. And so now you fast forward to today, we have over 20,000 agents in every city in the United States.
Absolutely unbelievable.
And it was all from, this one conversation, meeting, this gentleman that became a mentor, a best friend, like a father figure that gave me the confidence. And I got my arms around this concept of wholesaling insurance products. And I knew if I was into it, I would excel at it. And I started to make some money. I loved it because it was all my ideas and being creative. And I saw it working every day and getting bigger and bigger. And we just blew it up. We never looked back. And, here we are today. And it's the best thing ever. We're known as one of the top IMOs in the country. And an IMO is basically an insurance marketing organization. So it's our job to recruit and service as many agents as possible throughout the country. And it just turns out, this is a Friday afternoon, March 5th, and I'm meeting Jeff at his house in Ocean Reef on Sunday, and we're going to have lunch together. Awesome. So it's just crazy how the whole thing happened. And I've never looked back. So that's the quick 2-minute story turned into 20 minutes, but
it's fantastic. And we need stories like that. We need to hear those type of things and to attach that passion and success to it. I remember hearing once, and pardon me, I can't remember where I heard it, but it always stuck with me. Like you're going to get to a crossroads. And for many of us, there's multiple crossroads. But when you get to the crossroads, my best advice is to follow your passion. And that's always stuck with me. But you've done that a couple of times. Your mom pushed you down the road of your passion, for bikes, and you followed it once. And then you hit another crossroads when this gentleman challenged you. and then you decided to follow your passion again. At that point, I think your passion was just for something bigger and better. So you followed it. Didn't necessarily know what it was going to be at that point. So you went down the road of dad, and you pushed and you challenged. I think where we need to go with this conversation now is you as an innovator. How did you become an innovator to take this to 20,000 plus people? What role would that play?
Yeah, that's a great question and great points, Donnie. You're spot on. It's all about like seeing the signs, right, and having that intuition and following your gut. So what I did, this industry is known as a very dinosaur industry, right? If you think about like insurance agents, you think about the short sleeve dress shirts, the ties that stop at their belly button, that's a typical life insurance agent, right? And
tips.
Yeah, yes. And that was the mold, right? And all of our competitors back then, they all did things the same exact way. And when I came into the industry and I said to my dad, I was like, Dad, we don't have to sell. Like, let's wholesale. Let's start distributing. We have a few agents that work with us now. If it's 5 or 10 or 100, why don't we have 300, right? We already proved the concept. It's working with 2 people or 3 people. So why not 100 and why not 1,000 and why not 10,000? So he loved the idea and basically said, Bill, if you want to do this and take it on, let's do it. And I think what's important here, and I think is what led us down this road to success to where we are today, is I had blinders on the entire time. I didn't listen to the stereotype, right? I didn't listen to what everybody else was doing. I kind of said, you know what? I need to figure this out. And once I had a handle on it and what worked and what didn't, right? And right. Our agents are our consumer or the prospect. Sure. So once I figured out what we have to provide and figured out what these agents want and need, we were off to the races. And we went down a road that no one else went down. And you say to yourself, okay, what was that road? So everybody else at the time, all the IMOs, all of our competitors or agencies, if you want to call them that, they all just said, you know what, we're going to provide the best service, the best products, and the best commission. Those 3 things. They said, if we can do that, we're going to be successful. So I said, okay. I said to myself, well, we're going to do those 3 things, of course, but there's also a 4th leg we're going to add to this platform, and that is it's value add. It's sales programs. It's what ideas and strategies can agents use to open more doors and create leads. Yep. That's the part that everybody was missing. So they were so focused on, hey, we're going to have the best companies, the best products, and the best commission, and the rest will just work itself out. Okay. Yeah, it did. It worked for many years. But I said, let's create this turnkey platform that we can add as a value add, right? A differentiator in the marketplace. And let's blow this thing up, right? Not have one platform that creates new opportunities, but we're going to have 50. We're going to create a podcast, a training platform, and give these agents an opportunity to hear from MDRT agents that are making, $1 million, $2 million, $3 million a year in commissions. I'm gonna sit down and pick their brain for an hour, and then I'm gonna broadcast this podcast or webinar out to all of our 20,000 agents so everybody can learn and share ideas. We're gonna have a weekly live webinar training every single week where agents can dial in and they can listen to me speak to an industry professional, an influencer, right? Someone like you, let's say. Yeah. So we completely changed the landscape in the insurance brokerage space. And looking back now, of course, when you're let's say the first one that the trailblazer, and then you start to see everybody else shift and start to copy the trend, right? But we were the first, and it paid off in a huge way. We were the first company that came out with an e-application when people thought we were nuts. I remember, 10, 15 years ago, I was sitting at an industry meeting with 50 insurance companies in the audience, and I was on a panel about probably 6 of us, and we said to the insurance companies, we need an electronic application. Look at all the other industries around us. It's happening now. And they looked at me like I had 3 heads. They said, Bill, there is no way our compliance department is going to let a 40-page application turn into a link on a computer, a tablet, or a smartphone.
Right.
It's not happening. Okay? Today, if you're a company without an e-app, you're either driving a horse around New York City or you're driving a car in reverse. It's not happening. So, yeah. Right. So, I mean, it was just, I guess it was about trying new ideas. And for me, there's no secret. It was easy for me. What's working in other industries around you, right? And how do you incorporate that into your own industry? And I think that's what it was about at the end of the day. And we took a chance. We put our money where our mouth is. We invested in these platforms, and it paid off in a huge way.
I can see where there would be apprehension, when you see the tradition of the business, just like you said, a 40-page application into a phone app. And I think they can't get their brains around the how and the money and the time. And then what if it fails? Meanwhile, we could have just kept going through the 40-page apps one at a time. So you had to take the leap. And when you look back at there's so many, right? There are countless stories about people who took the leap and it paid off. And some took the leap and it didn't pay off. But
that's
in
right.
your case, it did, because correct me if I'm wrong, but you always had a connection of tech and human beings. That's where you won. Huge. Am I correct in saying that?
110% correct. Very important. You're exactly right.
Cool.
Yep.
Hey, what's it like to work for you? Should I ask the people in your office? I should do a podcast with Mom.
Yeah, exactly. She'll be on the next episode. So this is my life. Okay, this is my focus day in and day out. Okay, I mean, just to give you an idea, I have on my business card always. This isn't something new. My cell phone number is on my business card. Okay, that should tell you everything within itself.
Right.
So there's not many people that want to be bothered, on a 8 p.m. on a Wednesday night or 11 a.m. on a Sunday. If it's about business, right? Phone goes off, they're into personal family mode, which there's nothing wrong with that. But my point is, getting back to your question, this is my everything. Okay. And everybody that knows me will tell you the same thing. Okay. There's not even a question. They know this life insurance brokerage is my life. Okay. And I'm not saying, do I go on vacations? Do I go boating on Sundays and hang out with my friends? Absolutely. But they all know during the week, okay, I end the workday around 6:30, 7 o'clock. I go right to the gym. I get home about 8:30. I have dinner and get ready for bed, and I do it again the next day. So I am so passionate about what I do and providing value to these agents that my friends, the employees here, my father, okay, he still works here. We're partners. We're officially managing partners.
Right.
My mom, my sister works here in the office. We have 22 other employees. And they know that when it's our typical hours are 9 to 5:30, 9 to 5:30, you have to be focused, okay? And there's, very little personal talk. Everybody gets a 30-minute lunch break, but it is very serious. Everybody needs to go above and beyond for these agents. They're our customers, and we have to do whatever it takes to keep them happy and successful. And that's the motto, and there's really no room for error. We're not perfect by any means, okay? But you have to go out of your way for our agents. Okay. It's extremely important. And everybody around me knows how serious we take this and that it's very, very important and that we must go above and beyond. And I think our reputation, speaks for that, right? I mean, you look at our if you do a Google search, you'll see, our reviews on my podcast, the reviews. You very, very rarely hear anything negative unless it's from a competitor that wrote something online, to try to bring us down.
Right.
But it just like I feel like when you're genuine and you're real and you put 100% in, everything else kind of falls into place after that, right? It's like doing the right thing, right? And if you play on that line where you're not really doing the right thing, you're going to be exposed. It's a matter of time. So the way I look at it, in my eyes, there's one way to do things. And if you're always above board and you always play in that green space, you never have anything to worry about. Everything will kind of take care of itself. So that's the way I look at it. And that's the way our employees look at it. And, we really don't tolerate anything else, except the best and the best effort. That's what it's about.
You kind of answered my question, I think, already, but we're living in a world where perhaps there's more distraction than we've ever had in history, where they say the human brain can handle about 30,000 decisions a day, from the time your eyes open and your feet hit the floor to the point where your head hits the pillow at night again. And a colleague of mine who actually did a TED Talk with me, she wrote a book about confidence is a choice. She did a lot of research about brain science. Her name is Alyssa DeVere. And she talked about how one of the biggest confidence killers we have right now is overchoice. She's like, when I was a kid, we had 5 salad dressings. We had like 5 TV stations. So I notice, like in your world of, the Bill Levinson experience, you call it, I believe, you talk about how people stay on track. And I think you partially answered that. It starts from you at the top. Your focus is their focus. You carry the torch so high, no one cannot see it.
Yes, exactly. You set the example. That's right. That's exactly right. I remember I did a podcast with Gary Vaynerchuk. Okay, VaynerMedia. He's out of New York City. Yeah. Most people have heard of him. He's like the social media guru. And I sat down with him for an hour. And I remember him saying, this internet, this social media, this new world that we're in. He's exactly my age. And he said, it's the best opportunity ever. And he said, the reason why, he goes, Bill, you can go back home. I was in his office in New York City. He goes, you can go back home. You can start a podcast. You can put out a 4-minute YouTube video, and you can take that video and put it on your website and all 4 of your social media platforms for free. Yeah. And you can get the message out and you can get the word out. And if you have the gift to gab, and if you have that great personality and everybody loves you, you're like a magnet. There is no limit to how big you can take your company or yourself or your brand in this new world. And he's exactly right. If you look, and I know I'm changing gears for a second, but I think it's an important point. 20, 30 years ago, you couldn't play in that, marketing space, the advertising space. You couldn't, unless you were like a huge company, a Nabisco, Doritos, a Hershey's, right? You could, if you were a small time guy or girl that came up with a new product in the middle of Wyoming, you can't get your product out there and compete with these monster companies. It's impossible 20, 30 years ago.
Very true.
Now, you go back, you start a podcast, you start a few social media platforms, and you get your message or your product out there consistently day in and day out, you can become the next, Nabisco, Doritos, Hershey's, whatever it is, for free. Yeah. For free. It's happening around us right now. It's unbelievable. So, the point is there's unlimited opportunities right now if you're willing to play and put the effort in and you have that special gift or product or personality. So, I'm excited about this. I learned a lot of this as far as social media, podcasting from Gary Vaynerchuk, and I took his advice. I remember, and just again, changing gears, I remember my first podcast episode, we had like 5 viewers and no comments or reviews. And I was so frustrated. I'm like, is this worth, the 2 hours of prep time and 1 hour of recording and finding guest speakers? And, and I kept listening to what he said in the back of my head. Gary says, Bill, if you have 1 follower, 1 like, 1 comment, 1 review, that's 1 more than you had yesterday. And the 1 turns into 5, which turns into 100, which turns into 10,000. And it just keeps going from there. And I listened to that and I stayed consistent. It's not easy.
I'm good with hearing that again. Me being a guy who's working down that path. So I will take that to heart, my friend.
Yeah, it's so true. And I went through it too. And it's so hard to put the work and you're like, is this worth it? I have all these other things going on. But if you, I'll just give you a quick example. I do my Bill Levinson Experience podcast. I do a live episode once a month, and I do Positive Tuesday quotes every single Tuesday. Okay, I don't miss a Tuesday. Literally, if I'm sick in bed, I get these things out. We do the live weekly training webinars once a week. Okay. If I'm sitting here saying all these things and then you go look at my Positive Tuesday quotes on social media and you see that the last one was 16 weeks ago, then I'm not walking the walk, right? So yeah, I might be preaching and saying all these great things, but when you look at my track record, nothing's there. I'm not doing what I'm preaching. So you have to stay consistent day in and day out. Every Tuesday, you'll see Positive Tuesday quotes since I started 4 years ago. Haven't missed one. Bill Levinson Experience, I started almost 4 years ago. Once a month, you will see a live episode. The training series, the Levinson and Associates training webinars, once a week for the last over 10 years, you will see at least 1 training webinar a week that I personally did. Okay, so it's not easy. I'm not saying it's easy, but if you keep your foot on the gas day in and day out, stay consistent, you start making the turn. And next thing you know, you have thousands and thousands of followers and it works. It's not rocket science.
Well, one of my goals is to make you proud. Okay, because I'm a little bit behind you. So for you, it might be Positive Tuesday. For me, it's Whoopee Wednesday.
There you go.
I want you to know I'm on the track and I'm going to make you proud. I just need a little bit more time, but I am going to make you proud. And but there's a couple of things when you talk about social media platforms and when people find you out there. I need you to talk just a little bit about boxing because they see you with the gloves on. So do you fight?
Yeah, so that's a funny story. I get this all the time. Okay, so no, I'm not a boxer. I'm a typical Jewish kid from Miami, Florida. Not a boxer, never boxed. I do work out 5-6 days a week. That's my release. But I get this all the time. Here's the reason. So I was featured on the cover of Insurance Newsnet magazine.
Yeah.
And so what happened is the editor came down here and we had many conversations around the cover story. Okay. And we have this platform called Insure Me Now Direct, which I came out with. It's like Amazon for life insurance. Okay. But remember when you were talking about, how great the technology is, there still has to be some human involvement. There has to be a mesh, especially in our world. So I built this platform, Amazon for insurance, but the link and the technology sits on the agent's website. So it's not direct to consumer where there's no agent involvement. Okay. Yes, the client can log on at 2 a.m., but there is agent involvement with their 800 number on the screen, with their email. So we encourage the client to reach out. And of course, the agent gets full commission. So it's a win-win anyway. Right. So I came out with that Insure Me Now Direct platform. And Insurance Newsnet said, Bill, we got to feature you. We've never seen anything like this in the insurance brokerage space. You are changing the landscape. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm humbled by this. His name's Paul Feldman. And I was like, I am so blown away. Thank you so much. I'm delighted. And he said, we got to come up with a cool cover story, a neat theme. We want to spin you as the industry disruptor. This is what he's telling me. So I was like, wow. I'm thinking to myself, this is from a kid that sold, motorcycles and bus tables at Chili's. Right. And you want to put me on the cover of this national magazine? I'm like blown away. Yeah. So we're trying to come up with a cool theme. So he goes, I'll tell you what. He goes, what do you think if we kind of position you as like this fighter, industry disruptor? And I was like, cool. So I had my photographer friend come in and he had some boxing gloves and we said, what would this look like? Would this be cool? So we put it together, sent it to Paul. He loved the idea. 2 months later, cover story comes out, me, boxing gloves, industry disruptor. Yeah, so I get that all the time. Nice. They're like, Bill, I didn't know you boxed, or they'll say to me, I do some UFC stuff. You should come in the ring with me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, no, this is just for a magazine. I'm not a boxer. So that's funny.
You could have gone from baby back ribs to boxing gloves. I'm just saying. I'll throw that out there.
Yeah. That'll be next year.
Hey, your favorite car? What do we got?
Yeah. So I love the Lamborghini. It's called the Aventador 63. A very special edition car. I've always been a Lamborghini fan. I had the poster of the red Countach on my bedroom wall growing up as a kid.
Yep.
Never thought I'd see the day where I would have my own, but I made it. I did.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my favorite. And let me just say too, on that topic, I think it's important to say, you hear about, all these guys having a midlife crisis, going out and buying the Lamborghini and showing off. And
right.
For me, it's totally different. Okay. In fact, I drive with the windows up. I don't want to be seen in the car. For me, it's about, what? This was a goal of mine, poster on the wall, kind of the dream board, approach from The Secret.
Yeah. Sure.
And I was able to do it. I had my first car, Lamborghini, at 26, and I did it. Not because it's cool. I want to show off or I want to date, women because of it. No. It's an unbelievable feeling of accomplishment. Everybody's different. For some people, it's the house. For some, the family, the kids. Right. For some, cars. Whatever it is. Okay. And I have a few things. I have a dream board full of 20 different items, and 19 of them came true, which is, by the way, that's a whole nother story. Yeah. But it's self-accomplishment. It's a great feeling that I did it. I came from nothing, and I was able to make it with hard work. And by the way, I didn't make it. I'm still, going through the process. I have a long way to go, but that's what it's about to me.
I could tell early on in getting to know you and even reading about him, like, this guy's the real deal. It's not a show. This guy's the real deal. It's the brain and the heart. And that's what I was seeing in you very early on. And here's the deal. I am going to make it to Florida. We are going to do an event together at some point. And all I ask, because my son, who's going to be 12, who is a survivor of congenital heart disease, could we give him a ride in the Lamborghini?
I would love nothing more than to do that.
Awesome.
And let me just say one more thing. I know we're running a little behind.
Yeah, it's okay.
The ride in that Lamborghini, it sounds cute, it's funny, whatever. A ride in a Lamborghini for me, like growing up when I was at the motorcycle dealership, a customer came in, gave me a ride. That feeling for me, everybody's different. The feeling for me, that the exotic car, that success smell, that, it pushed me in that ride. I'll never forget. I said to myself one day, I got to figure this out. And drove me to not the only reason, but drove me to success. And I'll never forget. I kept saying, I have to get this figured out. I'm going to make it. And I have what it takes, because Jeff kept telling me I can do it. Yeah. Right. So that's what it means to me. And I would love nothing more than to give your son a ride in the car. Absolutely.
I can't wait. I'm really looking forward to that day where I shake your hand and we I know we're going to continue to accomplish things together. It's exciting for me. I know we're also on the home stretch here where you're going to get to ask me a question at the end, and I want to honor time. I do need to know you. I'm assuming you're a Dolphins fan.
Oh yeah, Dolphins, Miami Heat.
So we can't talk about Brady, right? We really should not talk about it. but he is a great example, though, of someone who wasn't supposed to accomplish much, wasn't supposed to make it, barely made it into the NFL. And you look at change after change after change. He changed his body. He changed his throwing motion. Now he's changed his uniform. It's almost sickening, but he is one of those examples out there.
It's unbelievable that when you talk or think about discipline and taking care of yourself, right? He is a plus example of that. He's my age and he's playing pro NFL football, not only playing, but just won the Super Bowl with a brand new team. The whole story is amazing. And we should all look for clues, right? Success leaves clues, they say. That's a perfect example of, you can do anything, right? If you're willing to put the time and effort in. I love that story with Brady. It's amazing. Amazing. I wish he played for the Dolphins. But
yeah. Well, one of my best friends in the world is a huge Dolphins fan, so it's been a long road for him. He's also a Yankees fan, so we've had a lot of run-ins over the years. But before you ask me a question, can you just hit quickly the post about the 3 lessons learned that I read? Because I thought that was huge.
Yes, of course. So this was my last Positive Tuesday quote. Remember, I said every Tuesday. Yep. And what does Positive Tuesday mean? Absolutely nothing, by the way. I just made this up, and I figured it's my chance to put a motivational, inspirational quote out there on social media and show all my friends, network, agents, just to show that I am walking the walk. It's not just talk. I'm doing it, right? And so this was my last Tuesday quote was a picture, okay? This was my second Lamborghini in the picture, right? Not that that means anything, but I thought it was cute. And this was the first magazine I was featured in. It was called Heavy Hitters. And the headline of the cover on the headline says, if you look at the quote, he worked at Chili's and now drives a 1,000 horsepower Lambo.
Love
it. Yeah. So it's kind of neat. So I wanted to do like a 15-year look back, and what are the 3 important lessons that I learned over the last 15 years? So I'll just list them real quick. Number 1 is trust your gut over anyone's advice. Right? I think we can all learn from that. Number 2 is spend more time with loved ones, right? Unfortunately, I had some close family members pass on recently, and I wish I would have spent more time, less regrets. And so that was a big one. Number 3, and for business, this is A1. This is like a Tom Brady example, okay, of making it in the business world. I don't care what side you're on. Overcome all rejection. It will destroy your dreams. And I think that's huge. You have to look at the rejection as fuel, right? That gets you moving even faster in that right direction. And that was kind of like the story you were telling me when we first jumped on, Donnie. You can't let it push you back even an inch. You got to keep moving no matter what.
Yeah. It was taught to me by one of my greatest mentors. Until adversity and failure become your allies, you tend to always be the victim. And that's how she shaped it to me and how I'm shaping it to my kids. And I'm not trying to minimize how tough the rejection is and how tough the no is. We all got to mourn them, but, mourn for a little bit and then time to move on and, don't let it just destroy your dreams, in your words. So tremendous insight. You get to ask me a question walking out the door here. Do you have anything on your mind you want to throw at me?
Yes. No, I do. This just came to me as we're talking, and I think it's great for the audience. You're obviously a successful guy. You have a great family, and I think everybody would like to know and learn a little bit from you too, that, what keeps you so focused, and why do you want to, build out the podcast and your training platform and you're writing books and doing all these things? Like, what is it that keeps your foot on the gas? What does the big picture look like for you?
Yeah, thank you. It's a couple of things. My mom and dad, if you recall, I'm an only kid, and I feel that they did bring me up with tremendous support and encouragement, but also a piece of humility, where, hey, Donnie, there's always a better singer out there, or a better guitar player, possibly. And I've always had that in the back of my head. Now that I'm 50 years old, it's amazing how I've really come to the conclusion that I know what I am and I know what I'm not. And what I am is an edutainer. I deliver my content with a ton of sincerity and a little bit of humor. But I know how to help people embrace change and succeed. And I know I'm good at it. And I'm comfortable with the humility part, where I know exactly what I'm doing with my life right now regarding my business with Prospecting Intelligence. I'm also still marketing director for a mortgage company that my buddy started 15 years ago. And I know exactly what I'm good at and what I'm not good at. And I'm taking what I'm good at and I'm running with it. I had a couple of people make fun of the whole whoopee analogy at the beginning, like, dude, get rid of the stuffed animal. You know how ridiculous you look? And I'm like, no, it's a very clear message. And the fact that I turned into a book in less than a year, and also what became a TED Talk, I'm like, okay, it gave me the affirmation, Bill. And I got it. I know what I have. I know what I have to offer. And I'm not stopping until this goes where I know it can go. Because I love helping people figure out how to embrace that change, no matter how uncomfortable, so that they can succeed, create new habits, and enjoy new opportunities. The other driver behind me, my why, is all about my family. My kids, their happiness, their safety, their success. I get up every day and I got my plan of attack, and I go at it hard because I want to see them well. And I also want to see me well too. I learned that you referenced The Secret earlier. And that was one of the big takeaways back then. Seeing that was you got to take care of yourself to take care of the people you love. So I continue to do that. And my why is very, very clear, and it gets me over any hurdle that I experience on a day-to-day basis, even over the last year. And the hurdles are quite profound, things I thought I'd never be dealing with that I was dealing with, that I now know how to get through. And I'll throw one more in there.
Please.
My faith does play a big role in my life. And, being a believer in something much bigger than that I have the privilege of being a part of and contributing to, is another piece that gets me through. And I also keep laughing. For the love of God, yeah. Right? Have some fun. So that's a long-winded answer to your question, but I hope I gave you.
No, it's great. That was awesome. Awesome. And, we're talking about being real and genuine, and, everything comes to the surface anyway. So, give it your all, and, don't ever change. Right. And you are a great example of that. And even the whoopee, what a great anchor. Right. And, I remembered you, from the whoopee. I think about the TED Talks, and I think about your book, and, that's what comes to my mind. So why be like everybody else? Right. And it's being unique. It's finding, that anchor, whatever it is, and differentiate yourself. Think about it. That's why you are where you are. And that's how we wound up where we are in this insurance space. It's being unique, finding your niche. So I'll just say a couple things, unless you have anything else, and we can wrap up. Is there anything else?
Please do. And I just want to make sure you also give your information if people want to read more about you or connect with your company. I want to make sure we get that on the end. Okay.
Of course, of course. And yes, and we are going to, so every year, okay, we have our Levinson Expo in South Florida, and that's obviously live face to face. And we have not been able to do this in the last year and a half. So we're looking at hopefully by probably the end of this year or the beginning of 2022. We're going to have the live expo again, and I'm hoping to have Donnie there as one of our speakers. So we'll work that out. And of course, we'll let everybody know. I'll just end with a couple things. Number one, I would love you all to check out the podcast. By the way, it's not all insurance related. A lot of it is just similar episodes, kind of like me and Donnie are doing right now. Jeff Levitet's my mentor. I did an episode with him one-on-one. Gary Vaynerchuk. I sat down with him for an hour live. He's on there. So some really cool stuff. It's the Bill Levinson Experience. It's on all of your favorite podcast channels or YouTube. Obviously, there's no charge. We don't sell anything. It's just about bringing value. I just want to say a couple of things, if I can, for just the audience. And you keep one thing in mind: our consumer, our audience, right? They're insurance agents. Most of you listening are not insurance agents. So it's not like, I have anything to gain and, I want you to buy this for $19.99 a month and then you can sign up for this program. No, this is about value add and sharing my story for the community. Right. And it's going back to what I said earlier. No matter what your focus is, your age, your gender, where you're calling in from or listening from, it's being real. It's being the same person, right, at Christmas or Hanukkah dinner that you are in your business life or with your friends, your gym buddies, whatever. It's being genuine. We're not perfect. This wasn't easy. Everything I do isn't perfect, but I try to learn from these things, right? And move forward. That's it. Find your anchor. I love that whoopee concept, but there's going to be obstacles. We just saw some huge changes in this world with the pandemic, right? And when you think about pivot, think about change. Look at like Blockbuster and Netflix. Blockbuster was the huge 1,000-pound dinosaur, right? It was very hard to pivot and change. Netflix comes in. I just heard this story by the founder of Netflix, and Blockbuster had a chance to buy Netflix for $50 million. Today they're worth, I believe it's like $500 billion or something crazy, but they had a chance and they passed. They passed on the opportunity, and Netflix said, we're not going to go around them. We're going to go right through them. Okay. Well, Blockbuster is bankrupt. Okay. They are done. And you see where Netflix is today. Okay. So pivot, change, keep moving forward, be genuine, find those anchors, podcasts, books, make sure you keep your foot on the gas day in and day out. I have to listen to a podcast every morning on the way to work for the last 20 years. Never missed one. Okay. Because I got to get my head in the space because I know there's going to be challenge throughout the day. So anyway, whatever it is, yoga, golf, stay focused, keep your foot on the gas, check out my social media pages if you want to communicate. It's Billy Levinson on Instagram or Levinson and Associates on Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter. Donnie, thank you so much. And Scotty, thank you for the introduction, right? Because this all wouldn't have happened. We're going to do many more episodes, expos, meetings. I'm looking forward to it. And thanks everyone for taking the time. Thanks again. Take care and be safe.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Bill Levinson, managing partner for Levinson and Associates. You blew me away today. I know you blew the audience away. If they didn't take something away from this and apply it, they're making a huge mistake. Take care of yourself and your family, my friend. I look forward to talking to you soon.
I agree. Thanks again. And thanks again, everyone. Take care.